it's okay. I'm just waiting for the little red dot to show up. Okay. So let me just share the screen. Just sharing the screen. It's so you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So give me just a second. So good morning, everybody. I will start the meeting today and want to welcome everybody after the holiday. Hope everybody had a really wonderful time. This is our all hands update monthly. And this time we didn't have a utility that was ready to talk about their case study. So we're going to just cover some other updates today. So the agenda is that I'll provide a brief update on the overall status, including the pilot improvement efforts, the development of guidance documents in the media library, the status on the assessment tools, and also Mike Barnett will provide an update on the business process modeling, the water sector value model. Then Mark Pauling will talk about marketing efforts ongoing. Scott will talk about a related effort related to WISE, not necessarily part of WISE, but a workshop that he's working on. And then we'll have an open discussion to get feedback from folks. My presentation is on a different screen, so that's why I am kind of looking to the side. So as far as pilot improvement efforts, these efforts mostly start with identifying a business process that would be improved, and then looking at how the process and people aspects and technology can improve. These are the processes that have been identified by different utilities as the topics of their improvement efforts. Water main replacement, ASBIT submittal and approval, warehouse management, asset decommissioning, procurement, managing gas cylinders, condition assessment of pumps and motors, business case evaluation for CIP, asset onboarding, managing engineering standards and specifications, capital expenditure schedule, and pipeline non-destructive testing. These are the ones that we have so far, but a few more are being added, and people are considering additional ones to work on. So we expect that next month we'll have an update on some of these, one or more of these pilot improvement efforts. It's been coming along very well. The program team, Mike and Scott and I have been working individually with utilities to kind of help them out. So we have a new idea that has been talked about before, about pilot improvements and an opportunity for collaboration. And it has to do with technology, the top layer of the technology maturity model that is shown here. This starts at the bottom with creating or collecting the data. So are we even collecting the data we need? Are we managing it properly? Do we have analytical capabilities in the tools that we have implemented, individual tools and systems? And then finally, do we have the ability on the enterprise level to do analytics and insights? And that that layer really is built on top of these other three layers. So what's the difference between local versus enterprise analytics and insights? They're both evaluated in the tool to assess the maturity or capability of the technology that is enabling the process that we have selected. So to show it on an example, this is from International Infrastructure Management Manual. It's been adjusted a little bit. Asset management defined in terms of business processes, and it's been slightly adjusted. And we can see that in these different phases of asset management, different organizational units get involved. Engineering is in blue, operations are red, IT is in black, finance is in purple. So as we move along, they sort of different business units may be primarily in charge of participating. This comes from one specific organization that I worked with, but it does not but it's the idea is applicable to utilities in general. So to support these business processes and business units, we may have a number of specific systems that provide different areas of functionality. So for example, if we look at facility planning, and this local analytics means that, for example, facility planning section in engineering may have access to their CIP plan, and design unit in engineering may have access to the mathematical models for treatment processes or sewer systems or water distribution systems. They may have access to the CAD system. So they would be the primary users, so they can perform the analysis on the level within each one of these systems. Now, when it comes to enterprise analytics, that would mean that the same groups would have access to other systems that contain information that may be useful for their business process. So for example, facility planning, through this mechanism of connectivity and integration, could also, in addition to their primary systems, get information from the SCADA system to see the operational history of these different elements. They could have access to the maintenance management system. So all these different sources of information. So the ability to provide enterprise-wide data and functionality to different groups and units is where enterprise analytics and insight comes in. So the idea is that we look at that, and that would form a team that would collaborate on information system strategy and integration, how to move to an environment where the systems will be connected so that the data and the functionality would be easier to access. So I'm going to just pause right here and hear if you are interested in working on this. We have a couple of utilities already that are interested. But if you are interested, or somebody else in your organization may be interested, please either put it in the chat line or send me an email to form this group. I have Deb. Deb has raised Deb, did you have a question?
Yeah, my question is, Scott, have you already discussed that with Sam? Because apparently he's trying to work on something similar within our organization.
Yeah, I've talked to him about that, and in fact, I talked to him later today, and that MCES may be interested in participating in that.
Thank you.
Okay, so are there any other questions about this, or comments or thoughts? Okay, so that is about the the new initiative, and we're gonna this will be an opportunity for collaboration, exchange of artifacts and experiences with the goal to also develop some tools. So we have been working also on the development of the assessment tools. This is a diagram that shows the stages in the WISE methodology, the steps. When we start with preliminary planning, then where we answer the question what we should improve, then assessing the as-is system for the process and the characteristics and the technology maturity and more detailed modeling of the business process to figure out how we're doing things now, moving on to what we should change, where we analyze and design it to be, and so forth. So the ones in red, characteristics of the selected process and maturity of technology, are being being reviewed now by the folks who have volunteered to be on the beta testing team. They're part of their different tools but they're merged into the same spreadsheet. So we have a new version of this that we will be working with the beta testing team to work on. As far as the other two assessment tools for change readiness and workforce and organizational culture, they appear typically a little bit later in the improvement methodology, and we are planning to do the same thing with them in the coming weeks or months. Now, there have also been updates on the guidance documents, which we decided to build a media library where there would be videos that explain how to use the tools and so forth. So in this media library, we have two of them. One is sort of the development space where things are work in progress. And then once they've been reviewed and we have a release, then we put it into the sort of finished product library. So the two that are now have been completed and are being looked at is the technology assessment guidelines, beta version 3, that is 20 minutes long, and guidance for conducting assessment of the technology, of the characteristics of the business process we have selected and the technology. So we have some other videos that are more general. So we're slowly building up this systems media library. You can see that the title of this playlist is DEV, which stands for development. So these tools are also available and the templates in our shared database on shared OneDrive. This is the folder where they are located. So when a utility goes through the pilot, they want to use it, we would use this as a source to create a tool specifically for them to collect the data. So I'll stop and ask if there are any questions before we move to Mike Barnett and the status of the business process models. Are there any questions? See that there's something in the chat. Just want to say. Okay, so are there any questions before we proceed with Mike Barnett?
It doesn't look like we have any.
Okay, we'll move forward. Mike, did you want to take?
Yeah, thanks, Cello. So we wanted to update you on the work that we're doing with the models themselves, the business process models, and recall that the water sector value model is the phrase we use to describe the repository for all of the WISE business process models. And now that people are getting their processes, they're doing the assessments and they're getting to the point where they're starting to build as-is models. We've been working with a few individuals to get their models created. They're doing a great job. We've looked at daily operations checklist which has a lot of business rules in it. There, the idea is rather than have those be embedded in somebody's head or not documented, that we formalize what those operational rules and those daily checklists consist of, and then they can be managed going forward. Asset onboarding and decommissioning, that's the model that you see at the right, and you can see it's getting quite detailed. The modelers are doing a great job, adding the necessary detail that they need to be able to share and convey what's actually going on in the business process, which is really our goal. Clarity is the goal, and we want clarity so that sharing is easier, and describing it, documenting it, managing it going forward, that's all possible. There are a number of other models that we looked at. CIP models that were done previously seem to be getting a lot of attention. The business case evaluation part of that CIP is important, and I know some folks are looking at that. And there's a bunch of a very extensive set of revenue metering business process models that are in there, and these are just some examples. I mean, from the work that was done in the UAIM project and previously in WISE, they're all we've got a few hundred models in there now, and we're trying to, as part of the process, make sure that those business process models are as high quality as we can get. I see Deborah, you got a question?
Just real quick, can you just give me a quick, what is in the business process model CIP?
Cello, we've got I think we've got at least two different flavors of it. One done originally by Team 2100. Scott and Cello, pitch in here if you can. The other one by KC Water that did quite an extensive review. But go ahead, Scott.
Well, those two would be ones that are in there. The other one that we have is on CIP, investment planning and developing a CIP, and MCES did that particular model. So we actually are starting to get several different versions of sub processes that are in the overall CIP development and execution process.
Yeah, and as Cello's showing there, this is a very nicely layered and well organized set of models that others might find useful if you're interested in those business processes.
Yeah, they call it the stage model because these are the stages, identify needs, and then the first stage gate and things that should be coming out of this a process. And this little cross in a rectangle indicates that for example, in the business process modeling software like Signavio, if you clicked here, you would go down to look at the detail for this step. The same here and same here. So this is the highest level view of the business processes and a definition of things that should be coming out of each stage. So if you move down, you can see that, so this is CIP prioritization, how they do it at DC Water. These are the documents associated with the inputs and documents associated with specific sub-processes. So here again, as part of prioritization, there's to conduct business case evaluation. So if you go down, you can see the detail for business case evaluation that also has some business processes like develop opportunity and need statement. So if you go look at that detail, it's how do you go about that? So it's really a hierarchy of things that we do and how they're done. So the opportunity when we collaborate is different utilities could select any of these boxes, any of these sub-processes to provide more detail and therefore enrich the description of how the organization deals with the capital improvement program. Does this help? I
Yes.
think Deb, that was
I'm
your
sorry.
original.
I'm sorry, I was in La La Land. Yes, it does.
Okay, so I'll shrink this, and Mike.
And
go back to
Ramona
you.
just asked Cello what software is being used to do that.
I think. Did you want to answer this, Mike, or you want?
Well,
me to
there are lots of different software. For the WISE program, we're using a tool called Signavio. It's an SAP tool, but for example, the model that you're looking at there at the top right was done in Visio. As long as you use the BPMN 2.0 template, you can do okay. It's not as easy as using some other tools, but it works. And we can import those models and put them in the standard BPMN format. So there are some inexpensive options. There are some other free tools that if you have a chance, there's a BPMN description and document in our repository, at the end of which we mention a few of the tools that some of the utility partners have actually used. So you can get a list. There are a lot of tools out there. We selected one which we think is fully featured. It's also expensive, but it makes our life easier in a number of ways.
Ramona
Yes,
has
Ramona.
her hand up. Yeah.
How expensive is expensive?
Well, it's $4,500 a year for the
For-
subscription for Signavio.
How many users?
For one user.
For one user.
However, although we're recording, maybe I should stop the recording when I say this, that you can get around that a little bit if you have a couple or three people share the same login, because it's a cloud-based system, but just don't use it at the same time.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I think if you're working on the same business process, you all shouldn't be working on it at the same time in different places.
That would be best practice. Yeah.
It's a good practice.
You don't want to be changing the tires when somebody's trying to drive the car.
Right.
Especially
right.
both tires.
Yeah. So it's a long story about the tools. The Signavio is the one that has the most feature. It's the best. It is most expensive, but is also has the richest functionality. However, it's not on the list of sort of commonly used software that an IT department would have. And but many have Visio. So the decision to go with Visio was, many people just find that is easier for them to get and cheaper, or they already have it, or it's cheaper. But it does not have all the functionality that a Signavio would have. So that's just a balance. Anyway, did we answer the question properly? Okay. Mike, you want to continue?
Yeah, sure. So the other thing that we wanted to mention was the training in business process model and notation. We realize that a lot of people are just getting started. We don't want you to be afraid. There are 6 essential elements in BPMN that you would need to know to get started. It's not hard to understand. But if you do want to pursue training, we do offer training separately. It's not included in the WISE program, but we have done it we now have about 50 plus people have been trained with the standard course, which is a 3-day course. And just recently, we're seeing some utilities are getting to the point where they want more detailed models, and they're actually thinking of, automating or executing parts of their models that they've created, having invested all of the work in that. And there are a number of techniques in terms of, especially in terms of understanding events, how activities work, and some other things, some really practical modeling practices that are helpful for those people that want to push the envelope a little bit. And so we prepared an advanced BPMN sections, which we can use to augment the standard course for anyone that's interested. That just goes into some detail on those aspects of BPMN. Again, the idea is just get our models in the best possible shape, as clearly represented as we can, and that just makes it easier on other utilities that want to see what have been done in the models, possibly reuse them or adapt them to their own use. So, any questions on any of this?
In the chat line is a link to the guidelines. I just put it in the, this is where the files are, business process modeling, resources, guidelines. I just sent in the chat line the link to the document that Mike mentioned, and at the end of that document, there's some list of resources available, and there's a lot of training that's available as well online.
When is the next scheduled standard training? 3-day training?
Well, we do. What we're doing is we are querying. If anyone is interested, send Scott Cello or I an email, and then we create a list. Sometimes utilities have 4 or 5 people they want to have trained, and in that case, we just do it for the utility. In at least one case, we've had a couple of people from different utilities that wanted to join another group. And assuming that's okay with the utility, then that works out fine too. So what we really need is just an expression of interest, and then we'll work with you to schedule something that works for your utility.
And I also wanted to mention that Mike and I have been working with utilities individually on their specific modeling efforts. So when they start, they do the first draft. When we review it, we set up a call, we discuss how things can be improved and comment. So it really, we're willing to provide we are here to provide specific support, so to guide you through the steps and help with it. Are there other questions? Okay, so the next is Mark Pauling, and he'll talk about marketing efforts going on.
Thanks, Cello. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for being here today. So I wanted to just give you a quick briefing on our ongoing efforts to bring more people into the WISE program, because as all of you know, it's really the more folks that we have, the more utilities that participate, the more richness of our conversations, our networking, and the better the overall program is. So we've been working with Zoe Bright at WEF to develop a marketing plan. We are planning to take that to the steering committee for review and approval. And just the draft contains a number of things. So as part of marketing, and I'm not a marketing expert, that's why we brought Zoe in. So please excuse me if I'm not getting terminology correct here, but and I've worked public sector my whole career, so I'm not very good at sales either. I'm usually on the other end. I'm usually the person receiving the sales calls. But anyway, so we're working on awareness, which includes social media. We've had some posts for the WISE program. We did a series of webinars last year, which were extremely successful in terms of number of attendees. I think by the last one, we had something like 500 folks attended. It was really well received. We're also working on some short videos. So we're trying to get some testimonials, in essence, that are a little bit shorter than watching one of the webinars, something like a 2-minute one. So we're having a couple of folks who've been in the program for a long time. For instance, Jackie Jarrell and Zonetta English are putting those together. We're working with them to put that together. We're also working on case studies. A number of you have done case studies, and they're excellent. I'm at a place where I'm trying to bring these case studies, kind of shrink them up a little bit so they're a little bit more bite-sized. So if anybody who has a current case study or who is interested in doing a case study, if you would contact me, I would love to work with you in terms of kind of getting it down to a paragraph or so with some really key points. And in particular, if you've either since your case study was written or perhaps as part of that case study, if you've got some documented savings, whether that be in staff time or you have documented in process improvements, I'd love to work with you on that to get these things into things that might be posted in, for instance, social media. We're out there, we're kind of fishing in essence. We're trying to get, bring some hooks to bear with good bait on them to get folks interested. And then the last thing is referrals. And so for those of you, my little bit of experience with fundraising, I was on a nonprofit board for a number of years. And one of the best ways to really bring people in is referrals from people who are already donors or people who are, in this case, people who are already participating. So if you have any colleagues, either at other organizations, or if you have colleagues in your organization. So for instance, we had a lot of folks attend the webinars last year who were already utility partner members, but there were other staff that hadn't been exposed to it. And it was a great way for them to get introduced to the WISE program. So if you've got some folks in your organization you want to help bring in, just contact one of the program team. We'll help you. We'll get you pointed to those webinars. We can also do something, maybe like a short call, a half hour meeting or something if you want to bring some more people in your utility. Or if you've got colleagues that you think, gosh, this would be great if so-and-so for so-and-so over at this district. We'd love to hear from you. We're happy to join you on those contacts, or you can refer them to us and we can reach out to them. So we're just looking to keep this, we wanted to create a movement, as Cello always says, we wanted to create a movement, not a project. And so we're always looking to bring new utility partners in. And as you know, again, it just increases the value of our efforts overall. So I will be happy to answer some questions, and you can look for this probably in the next month or 6 weeks. We'll be putting this out after the steering committee's had a chance to look at it.
Okay, no raised hands, nothing in the chat line. Okay,
right,
well,
but please don't forget, reach out to me, send me an email or send it to Cello, and they'll make sure it gets to me. I'd be happy to work with you offline or anything you want to do in terms of if there's somebody that might want to join WISE. Thanks, Cello.
Thank you, Mark. And next up is Scott. And Scott, just let me know when to click the forward button, okay, for the next slide.
Okay, yeah, sure. I wanted to give our utility participants some background on something that they may be interested in. And if you are interested and you haven't been contacted or in touch with me, you can certainly get a hold of me and we can provide more information. But just by quick background, the Environment Agency is one of the utility participants. In the past, they have gotten a lot of value out of information sharing and different workshops, blue ribbon panels, and visits to places in the US, in North America. And they have, over the last few years, developed quite a bit of asset management expertise. And they are going to be visiting the US in April. They're going to be making a site visit or two. But I've been working with them to do to put together a workshop that is of interest to them in terms of asset management, leading practice development and sharing. So it turns out that this isn't a WISE sponsored event. It's open to people that aren't in WISE, and there are a number of those kinds of utilities that are interested in what the Environment Agency is doing in asset management and wants to share their leading practices as well. So we're putting together a workshop that's going to be in Portland, April 17th to 19th. We have Portland BES and Portland Water that are going to be hosting that, and we're expecting some others to be there as well to share leading practices. And this is an opportunity to share, to network, to collaborate, And there will be presentations on some specific topics, and there will be practices, experiences, and artifacts that will be shared, and some panel discussions. The emphasis is going to be on a lot of interaction. If you want to go to the next slide, Cello. Go to the next slide and you'll see that there are some major themes that we're interested in. I see Andrew Pierce from waving at you there, and Suzanne Littlejohns are both on this call. But we're looking at utilities and the Environment Agency sharing organizational transformation topics like you see listed on the left, as well as asset management frameworks and practices that you can see listed, and basically also methodology for improvement. There will be an opportunity to share a little bit on the WISE related methodology, but also other methodologies and tools that different utilities, both that are in WISE as well as not in WISE, will share. It might even be a recruiting opportunity for WISE, as well. But wanted to let people know that that's coming up. We're expecting some real good participation in Portland at that workshop on April 17th to 19th. So if you're interested in any of that or have any questions, you can contact me and I'll get back to you. And right now, if you had any questions of myself or Andrew or Suzanne, that would be fine too. I see in chat that there's well, Cello put in the Environment Agency from the UK who is involved here and is really the reason that motivated this in the first place, to build on what they're doing now in the UK, but also other experience that they've had in the past. Right, Andrew?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we joined the WISE network this year, and we're keen to engage with our partners and identify people that would want to work with us. And we found that that the workshops, seminars, and knowledge exchanges are just a brilliantly accessible way of getting to know your partners and where you can work together. So yeah, we'd be delighted to meet and to talk and to share and develop relationships with anyone who's willing to come along. So we appreciate Scott and Cello for starting to facilitate the opportunity for us.
Good. Well, if anyone has any questions, you can certainly contact myself, Cello, or Andrew or Suzanne, and we can get you enlisted. There's a number of utilities that already are. So we're looking forward to that, and it's coming up very soon. And I know that Andrew and his team need to make travel arrangements and make arrangements to come over here. This is a significant investment of time and resources for them. So we want to make this as valuable for them as well as all the other utility partners that want to participate. So I think that was it, Cello.
Okay, well, that's all we had for the sort of communication, to the partners. But this is a chance to also hear back from all of you and open up discussion if anybody has any questions, concerns, or things they want to bring up. So I'm monitoring to see. By the way, Mark Pauling, that is Portland, and it is Portland, Oregon. And
not Portland, Maine. Yeah.
And I will be looking at to see if there are any raised hands I don't see any. Okay, so at the next call, we expect to see a presentation from one or more utility partners, like what Patrick did from Great Lakes, and the folks from MCES also made such presentations. And we will continue to work with the teams, different teams who are testing the assessment tools, conducting improvement efforts, doing business process modeling and all that. So the mode for us right now is really to work. The program team works directly with utilities. So Ramona, if you would not, it's not a question of just taking a class and then you're on your own. We're going to be there to also support you every step of the way, and others as well.
And Cello will be following. There were a couple notes that went into chat, and Cello can follow up on those items.
Yes. So one more chance if anybody wants to bring anything up. If not, let me just close the recording. Yes, and